Hiya, welcome back to part 6 in the rebuild series. Back in part 5 we'd sorted out the back end, so car's been set at the correct ride height, it's level. We've got the axle set up, so now the axle is parallel with the body this way by adjusting the forelinks. We've also set the nose angle of the diff so that the diff points up at the same angle as the gearbox points down for the prop shaft alignment, and then we set the Watts linkage to make sure the axle was square within the body. Now the back end's all set up, we can get rid of all the lines and sticky tape and the marks on the floor, because everything we do now at the front end, the Castor, Camber and toe, are going to be done directly off the back axle, which is how it needs to be done, with the car at ride height and obviously an accessible working level. Let's crack on. So inside the car, the only thing we need to worry about is that the steering wheel's straight ahead. It can be a little bit awkward because obviously the dash pod on an Escort is a bit wonky. That's how they are as standard. But you can see the horizontal line of the dash trim and the red band on this suede steering wheel I'm using is at the 12 o'clock position. So whilst we're setting the front toes and the casters and the cambers, we just need to make sure that the front wheels are pointing straight ahead. Okay, steering wheel straight. Quick check to make sure the car's level on the blocks. I've got my gauge on the strut brace, so 0.03 or 4. Even closer. So yeah, to all intents and purposes, that car's level, side to side and front to back. Okay, so we're ready to do the front end. 3 different angles at the front end we need to be worried about, and that is toe, so that's the angle of the wheel, like that, the steer of the wheel, and then we've got the suspension, the wheel camber, which is how far it tips in at the top or out at the bottom, and then we've got Castor, which is the angle of the front strut, more or less. Okay, we need to have the wheels, in order to accurately measure Castor and Camber, we need to make sure the wheels are straight ahead, zero toe. There's 3 basic angles I'm aiming for, pretty much similar on all Escorts. This is your starting point. That would be 3 degrees of Castor, so we want the top of the strut tipped back 3 degrees, okay, or the bottom forward, whichever way, like right. Camber, so we want the wheel sitting in 2 degrees at the top, and then toe, we want toe out, so we want 1 degree of toe out. So 3, 2, 1, really simple, basic setting, get you where you need to go. Okay, I haven't got any gauges to measure accurately 1 degree of toe out, so I'm going to set it at neutral, 0 toe. And the easy way to do this is straight off the line, off the back wheel. So we're going to cast a line across the face of this wheel, down the car, and the front wheel should be in the same plane. Now my track, the width is wider at the back than it is at the front, and that's okay, because whatever the width is at the back, I can just measure in, and the gap there and the gap there need to be equal, and then I know I've got 0 toe. So a few ways to do that. You can get a big long straight edge, if you can get your hands on something. It's a bit unwieldy and they're a bit heavy, and not very practical, but it's really ideal if you can do that. We can use a laser, and that's what I'll be doing, just because I've got one. It was dirt cheap, it was 25 quid off Amazon, and I've used it mostly for DIY, but it'll work for this. Or you can just use a piece of string. So you get a piece of string, you stick it to the back of your tyre, and you're pulling it across the tyre. Make sure it's in line with the centre of the axle. Pull it to the front. It's easy if there's 2 of you. Okay. And then, as I pull the string in towards the car, the string's touching the back edge of the back wheel. When I pull it in until it just touches the front edge of the back wheel, I've got a dead parallel line down my car. And then what I need to do is measure the distance between the back edge of the front wheel and the front edge of the front wheel to this straight line, and if those measurements are equal, I've got 0 toe. My steering wheels are directly in line with the rear axle, and that is straight ahead, 0 toe. That's what we're aiming for. I can't do it on my own with a piece of string because I can't hold the string and make the adjustments all at the same time. So I'm going to use a laser. It makes it a one-man job. If you do it right, they're no more accurate than each other. It's exactly the same principle. Can't really see the laser in this light, so I'm going to dim the lights, change the mood, and hopefully I'll be able to show you better what I'm trying to achieve. It's a bit darker in here now. I can sort of see what I'm doing. The windows are letting in a lot of light, but the laser is on. It's just magnet stuck to the back roller shutter, and it's casting a line all the way down the side of the car, perfectly level. And I'm using this aluminium box section, okay, but I know it's square and it's true, and I've covered half of it in masking tape just so I can see the laser better. And because of the edge of the rim actually caves in, so I need to get a nice square measure, and there you go, you can see that now. So you can see the laser line is running exactly the same distance from the back of the wheel as it is to the front. Okay, so the laser is parallel to the rear axle and it's shining off towards the front of the car. Then what I do at the front is I'll use the same level at the front, but I'm too far inboard because you can see on my thumb where the laser is. So this is going to be a bit difficult to try on video, but I will give it a go. So I've rigged up a little block for my straight edge to sit on, so I can sort of do this one-handed now. The straight edge is level with the centre of the wheel. It's lined up with the laser still shining at the back of the car. That hasn't been touched. So if I go in with a metal rule and touch on the back, I can see I'm at 17mm, and then touch on the front. There we go. I'm at 12 or 13mm. So that front edge of the wheel has got to go in, okay? Because the gap at the back of the wheel is bigger than it is at the front, which means my wheels are toeing out, okay? And I need to pull that in so I get the same measure on the laser there and there. And then we'll have 0 toe. And the way we achieve that is under the car on the track rod. So there's our track rod end. Here's our track rod coming out of our steering gear or steering rack. The lock nut. Everything's all loose. The whole front end's loose because it's just been assembled. It's just nipped up, but nothing's in position. Okay, and invariably we're going to have to recheck the toes after we've adjusted the casters and the cambers, but for now we'll get it zeroed both sides so we can carry on with the rest of the measures. So this wheel is toeing out this way and I need to pull it in, okay? So I'm going to twist this rod and shorten that distance and pull that wheel in and take another measure. So let's have a crack at that and see how I get on. So I've adjusted that track rod, give it a couple of turns, and we've got 17 at the back, 14 at the front. Bit more required. So my toe's been adjusted by adjusting the track arm, and I'll take another measure. And we've got 15mm at the back. Shine up laser. 15mm at the front. Cock on, wicked. So now all I need to do is tighten up that lock nut on the track rod up to the track rod end. And that's the left hand, the right hand side of the car even. Done. I'll take my laser off the wall. I move it to the side and repeat the same, and then I should have equal toe. Each time you make an adjustment, double check your steering wheel, okay, because it'll move if no one's holding it, and just make sure it's still pointing straight ahead. And with the toe set at 0, then we're in a good place then to go and measure our Castor and our Camber, and we can lock that up. So I'll get the other side done and we'll move on to the next stage. So now we've got the wheels in a straight line, the first thing I'm going to adjust is the Castor. The Castor's adjustable on my car because I'm running tension struts. Normally there's no adjustment. You've got two choices. You've got the standard anti-roll bar setup or the twin cam anti-roll bar, and it's not about the thickness and therefore the stiffness of the anti-roll bar on a twin cam. It's its location. It pulls the track control on and therefore the bottom of your strut forward, giving you increased Castor. Increased Castor is much better for self-centering the steering wheel, straight line stability, corner turning, loads of other things. So you really want to try and grab as much Castor as you can, realistically. The works cars and stuff like that ran at 3 degrees, that's what I'm aiming for. More is better really, but obviously the more you go, the heavier it makes your steering. But because I've got electric power steering, I don't have to worry about that. So yeah, so I'm aiming for 3 degrees, and I've got a tension strut and I can adjust it, pulling the track control arm forward and increasing my Castor. So I don't think I'm going to be able to show you how I measure it, but I'll have a go with the video and then I'll show you how I adjust it. So I've attached the inclinometer, it's magnetic and it sticks to the body of the strut, and I've found a parallel part of the strut, something that's even, and look, little grip turn. And if you can just make out the numbers, it's just under 2.5 degrees. Okay, and I know that the back of the car is tipped up 0.5 degree because of the floor, so that gives me my 3 degrees that I was after, which is pretty cool. And this is what I had to adjust. That is the tension link, and there's a rose joint at the end, and unfortunately you can't do it in situ, so the tension link has to come off. Take that bolt out there and then swing it out the way, make your adjustment, tighten up your lock nut and remeasure. So that's Castor done on the right hand side. I'm going to attach the level to the passenger side and adjust that. So I've come to adjust the Castor on the left hand side. I've took a measure. I'm at just under 2 degrees, so I need a bit more, but I couldn't make the arm any shorter because I was at the maximum adjustment. So what I've had to do is I've had to trim a bit off the tension strut itself. It's threaded, there's plenty of thread down there, so I've just took 6-7 mil off, and I can screw my rose joint in. Oh, bit of thunder, and crack on. So yeah, I used a slitting disc in my grinder. Got a bit ambitious, so that stings a bit. And anyway, we'll screw this back in, I'll pop it back on the car, take another measure, and we can move on to setting the camber. So now I'm on to the last measure, which is camber. Obviously with a fixed rear axle, the camber at the rear is fixed and should be 0 or thereabouts unless your axle's bent. The front I'm aiming for -2 degrees, so I need the top of the wheel to tip in 2 degrees, and the way I'm going to measure that is with the piece of flat bar. I've checked it for straightness with a straight edge, that's fine. I've bent a little lip on so it hangs on the wheel, and it's touching the wheel at the top and at the bottom under its own weight, running through the centre line of the wheel, and now I can put my inclinometer on there and take a measure. Before I do that, I'll just check that the steering wheel is still straight, which it is, happy days, and then check the angle of the body. That's cock on. So now I can take a measure of my front camber. Okay, 2.45 degrees negative. So I'm aiming for 2, so I need to bring the bottom of that wheel in a bit, and we do that by adjusting the track control arms, and I'll show you that now. So I've got these in situ adjustable track control arms, which means you're supposed to be able to adjust them whilst they're on the car without having to take them off, and you do that with a spanner on the big hex in the middle, and if you watch carefully you'll see the bottom of the wheel moving in and out as I adjust it. So you lengthen or shorten the track control arm to move the bottom of the wheel in or out and adjust your camber, and then you lock up these lock nuts, but the other lock nut is inside. And how the fuck are you supposed to get a spanner up there? So I thought about this problem, and my late dad has come to my rescue again with one of his old British spanners. So this is a 15/16 spanner, ring spanner, swan neck, and I've trimmed the edge out of it, and I can get up there, can't get up there in focus, and I can lock that nut off. So yeah, they are just about in situ. So I've made my adjustment, and I've taken up pretty much almost all the travel, pulling that bottom arm in, and that's because I'm running my ride height really low, and the lower you run the car, the more negative camber you're going to have. So let's see if I'm able to adjust it back. Oh, there you go. So I'm aiming for 2 degrees. I'll just give that a little tweak and lock it up and recheck it. And I've managed to get the right hand side cock on. So I do it. I've got enough travel on the track control arm to achieve it. There we go, it's settled down. Yeah, I'm going to lock it up at that. That's fine. That's close enough to get me to the wheel alignment centre. Okay. So the passenger side was pretty much the same. I started off at just over 2.5 degrees, and I've adjusted it down now to 2 degrees. It's a surprisingly coarse adjustment, meaning there's quite a lot of turns just to move it 0.5 of a degree. But there we go, I've managed to achieve it. Again, I've almost run out of travel, not quite but almost, because the car's so low anyway, and I start off with an awful lot of negative camber, and my homemade tool has worked a treat, locking them nuts off. Let's just check that camber measure. There, it's settled down. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about 0.02 of a degree. I'm calling that cock on. So now all I need to do is, because I've made all these adjustments to the Castor and the camber at the front, is again go and check the steering wheel straight, and then I'll do a final check on the front toes, making sure that they're parallel with the back wheels. I'll get my laser back out, and that's the geometry done. That's my basic setting, and that'll keep me safe and straight. Okay, so I had to adjust the front toes as expected. Whenever you make changes to Castor and camber, it will affect your front toes, so Everything's all square now. I've got my 3-2-1, 3 degrees of Castor, 2 degrees of negative Camber, and I haven't quite got the one. I'll set it parallel, so the front toes are parallel again off the back axle, and that's all done. So that's pretty much it for this video, part 6 of the rebuild series. I'm going to back in part 5. You see me space down the gearbox to get the correct prop shaft angle. So I'm going to knock up some shims for that to replace the washers I've temporarily put in, and once I've done that, the car can come off the blocks, come back down on the floor. I'm going to put the chrome trims in around the windows, and then it's off to go and have the exhaust custom made for it. That's not until the end of November, and there's not a lot I can do until that's done really. I've got to find somebody who's going to do the trimming for me, so I'm going to be looking at that. So yeah, so until the next video, thanks for watching this one and the rest of the series if you've been watching those as well, and if you haven't, just look at my channel. You can go back and find out what I've done in the past, and let me know what you think in the comments. As always, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, and I'll see you next time.